Ciao ragazzi, and welcome back to the latest episode of the Spot Check podcast, your source for clinical insights you can use in your practice the very next day. I'm your host, Jamie Restivo, board certified physician assistant, and today we're discussing a topic that has the power to completely transform how you practice and dramatically improve your patient outcomes: patient adherence. We can write the most brilliant evidence-based treatment plans in the world, but without patient follow-through, even the best medicine is completely ineffective. So, why do our patients struggle to comply, and how can we use behavioral economics to help them build better habits? To help us answer that, I'm thrilled to welcome Dr. Steve Feldman, board-certified dermatologist and one of the leading researchers in our specialty on patient adherence and behavioral change. Now, beyond his incredible research, Dr. Feldman also happens to be a very skilled magician. So, Dr. Feldman, I'm hoping you'll wave that magic wand of yours and reveal the psychology behind patient compliance, because let's be honest, getting patients to adhere to their routines can truly feel like pulling a rabbit out of a hat. Dr. Feldman, thank you so much for joining me. Welcome to the Spot Check podcast.
Jamie, it's my pleasure to be on with you. Yeah, I don't know that I'm that much of a magician, but I do have a magic tongue depressor that's pretty amazing. And
I've seen it.
Yeah. And the thing I like about magic is another term we can use for defining magic is applied neuropsychology. That's what magic is. It's applied neuropsychology. And another definition we could use for getting patients to use their medicine is applied neuropsychology.
I love it. I have both of your books on patient adherence, so I know our listeners are going to just derive so much value from this episode today. So we're going to get right into it. I want you to start by defining first, what is behavioral economics for practicing clinicians, and why does human psychology often play a bigger role in patient outcomes than the actual chemistry of the drugs that we prescribe?
Yeah, I'm a nerd. I went to the University of Chicago where all I wanted to take was math and chemistry and physics. But they made me take a social science course. So I took economics. And I was like, wow, this is awesome. This is the physics of human behavior. You have an incentive and it's a force and it drives people's behavior. Mm-hmm. And it turns out it's not entirely true. It's true some of the time. For example, if we tell patients, protect yourselves from the sun, they may think about, they may weigh the benefits of preventing skin cancer in the future against the risks of not having a date this weekend. And they may add that up and go, no, I think I'm going to go out in the sun. And so that's like a pure classical economics kind of issue. But it turns out that the assumption that people make these rational decisions based on weighing the, costs and benefits of things. Yeah, we don't. And we act irrationally, and we do it in predictably irrational ways.
That's right. As much as we try to predict behavior, our patients are irrational. And when we look at our specialty specifically, despite all the constant innovations we have, all the new medications, adherence to medical therapy is quite frankly abysmal. There's no better word for it. And it comes down to three main barriers that you publish in your book. So we have complexity, application discomfort, and perceived inefficacy when results are not immediate. So I'd love to trade some real-world pearls on how we can tackle these. Let's start with how you go after complexity.
Yeah, you are right. When it comes to topical therapy, well, we know we were taught in medical school that people won't take their pills and stuff. But when it comes to topical therapy, adherence is truly abysmal. Mm-hmm. And it's so abysmal that when we did a 1-year study of topical fluocinolone, a high potency topical steroid for psoriasis, we told people put it on every day. The adherence was so abysmal over the long run that the British Journal of Dermatology let me use the word abysmal in the title of the paper.
Yep.
Yeah, it's an easy article to find if you just look up abysmal and Feldman. Complexity, I think, is a big part of it. I remember being so happy. I trained here in North Carolina, and I was so happy when I learned that you could write as many um, non-opioid prescriptions as you wanted to on one prescription sheet. That way I only had to write the patient's name once and sign my name once. It's a big time saver, So for my psoriasis patients, I would put the two things for their scalp, the shampoo and the topical steroid in a vehicle that you could use on the scalp. And then I could put two things for their face and genitals, a steroid and a non-steroid, and then a stronger one for their elbows and knees. I was writing 6, 8 things on one prescription pad. And now I'm thinking, oh my God, what was I thinking when I did that? I mean, this kind of complexity might make perfect sense if
To
it's the
you.
recipe for a test tube, right?
Yes.
You're going to tell some, you're going to put these different things in a test tube, but we're not putting them in a test tube. We're handing this off to some human and asking them to do it when they won't do one thing well. So I try to make things as simple as possible. I was taught by really well-meaning do-gooders that, we shouldn't use, combination products. They're bad. I'm like, well, I don't know. It may make a whole lot more sense to give people two separate things.
Mm-hmm.
I remember coming to work one morning. I'm terribly allergic to poison ivy. That's why I got into dermatology. And I came into work one morning. I had poison ivy on my forehead. This was many years ago when we still had samples. And I asked the guy who hired me, Joe Urizzo, best dermatologist I've ever met, best dermatologist on the planet. And I said to him, Joe, do we have any samples, any low potency topical steroid around here that I can use on my forehead? And he reached over and he handed me some, what was it? It was the most potent steroid known to man that he gave me. It wasn't clobetasol. It was the other one. Is it the halobetazole?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, and he handed it to me and I'm like, Joe, I can't put that on my face. And he said, Steve, it's just for a few days. It's not going to hurt anything. I'm like, So now instead of giving people with psoriasis, 18 different things, I'll probably try to find one thing and get them to do that well. And if it's risky for the face or genital, I just tell them, just for the first few days, use it for a few days on the face or genital. Don't keep using it there, but try to get the complexity down to a minimal treatment.
It makes a big difference. And I think some of the new medications that we have, double combination, triple combinations, non-steroidal topicals, where that kind of eliminates some of that complexity. But yeah, I mean, you're writing things down. It's hard for us to keep track, let alone the patient to keep track, who has no earthly idea what the mechanism of action of X, Y, and Z is, and why you should be using something on the face and something distinct on the genitals. So it's convoluted. I mean, I treat a lot of acne, and I look at my patients and I think I'm very direct and transparent. And I tell the patient, look, are you going to be compliant with putting on one thing once a day, or will you work with me and do something in the morning and at night? And if they're looking at me with their eyes glazed over and like I have 8 heads, well, you bet your bottom dollar I'm going to go to a fixed combination molecule that has 2 or 3 agents in it, because they're going to be more likely to be adherent or compliant with it. So we got to meet patients where they are, and that's a big problem. But now we have more medicines than ever, to make that happen. So talk to me a little bit about the discomfort. How do we address that, and how do we address the unpleasantness? You have a great saying that, when something stings, you tell patients, look, this is stinging, but it means it's working. And I tell my patients with minoxidil, you might have a little bit of shedding when you first start the medication, but that means it's working. What are other examples of how you kind of frame things differently so the patients don't jump ship when something happens, when they feel a little friction?
Yeah, I think that, it's a sign that medicine is working. It's a really good, useful tool. Uh, I treat a lot of psoriasis, and so I'm giving a lot of clobetasol solution for the scalp. When people put that on, it stings. And if you don't tell them that it's going to sting and they put it on and they're shocked by the stinging, they don't want to use it. If you warn them that it may sting, that's better. But if you tell them, now this may sting, in my experience, that's a sign the medicine's going to work fast. Then when they get the stinging, it makes them happy that they got the stinging. And it wasn't a very good study, but I had my minions test this by surveying people and asking them, how willing would you be to use a treatment if it turned out that if you weren't warned and it turned out that it stung, versus if you were told this sign that's, and sure enough, people, it really, I think, does make a difference. Other things you could do. One of the orals for psoriasis causes weight loss. I would tell patients, unfortunately, this drug causes weight. In fact, I learned that from a dermatologist in Texas. She told me when she puts women with hormonally induced acne on spironolactone, she'll explain to them, unfortunately, this drug's also a diuretic, and you may notice some weight loss while you're on it.
That's clever. I've not heard
Yeah.
that one before.
No? Oh,
That
yeah.
can be a motivator.
Could be. Could be in our culture. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Other things about side effects. A lot of the immune affecting drugs we have are associated with a risk of infection, of serious infection, about 1 in 100 people.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
that's basically no increased risk at all, because that's the baseline risk.
Right.
Because if you have, say, bad psoriasis and you're not on any systemic therapy, you have about a 1 in 100 chance of developing a serious infection. But you never want to tell anybody there's a 1 in 100 risk of a serious infection, because if you
Flip
do,
it. Mm-hmm.
yeah, if you tell them that, they picture what it's like to be the one. It's like a balloon
That 1%.
filling their cranial cavity. It just takes over they just picture what it's like, and they're like, oh, I know it's going to be me. Oh, so what I do is I tell people, oh my God, right now you have so much psoriasis, your immune system's totally out of balance, and right now, because of that, you have a 1 in 100 chance of developing a serious infection. But if we put you on this all-natural, organic anti-inflammatory that will bring your immune system back into balance, well, once your immune system's working right, then 99 times out of 100, there's no serious infection.
I love it.
Yeah,
That's
99
great.
times out of 100, not having a serious infection is the same as 1 in
As the
100
one.
having. But behavioral economics, people are not rational. They're not. Hey, I don't know if we don't talk about this much in North Carolina, but if you believe in evolution, you can imagine Cro-Magnon man counting mammoths going by, going 1, 2, 3, a lot. I mean, the human brain did not evolve to distinguish 1 in 100 from 1 in 10 from 1 in a million. And so 99 out of 100, you imagine you're going to be one of the 99. Jamie, look,
It's a wonder.
Yeah, if young people like you were to invite me to go bungee jumping at some gorge in
That wouldn't be
Pennsylvania,
me.
and then told me there's a 1 in 100 chance of serious injury, I'd be like, there's no way I'm going with you. But if you said, hey, we're going bungee jumping 99 times out of 100, everything goes great, it's like, no, yeah, I'd consider it.
Well, you don't have to worry about that, Dr. Feldman. I'm very risk adverse, but I like that reframing. I mean, the data is exactly the same if you think about it, but just using that behavioral economics, kind of twisting it. And a lot of people think, oh, we're twisting things. I shouldn't have used that word, but we're manipulating things. But yes, we want patients to understand that 99% of the time they're not going to have that issue. It's a 1% problem. So that's a really practical pearl that I think patients and clinicians can understand.
You could show it to them graphically, show them 100 people. One of them is, now if you do it, one of them is bright, and in a bright color, it's going to stand out. So what you want is the 99 to be bright, and then one is kind of grayed out.
There's one medication I'm thinking of that their patient pamphlet has that one person highlighted and everyone else in the background. And that visual is huge. So that's a really great tip. Talk to me, Dr. Feldman, about the perceived inefficacy. We have a lot of drugs. Some of them take a little bit longer to take effect, and we live in a world of instant gratification. How do you counsel patients so that they don't give up when they're not seeing immediate results? What's your approach?
Yeah. Well, first, let me just say, I think medications work much better than we think they do. I think the reason they work slowly is because people aren't using them. And my proof for this is the frequency at which our patients tell us, doctor, it's so frustrating. You always seem to catch it on a good day. You don't get to see what it's usually like.
Right.
Now, you've probably heard that from an acne patient
all the time.
This week. Yeah, all the time. Well, we think acne topicals don't work very fast, but why do people tell us this? Is it because we're scheduling their visits at the timing of their, I don't know, sister's periods? No, it doesn't make any sense. No, what's happening is people floss their teeth right before they go to the dentist. This is critical to understand. People floss their teeth right before they go to the dentist, and they use their acne topicals right before they come see us. We catch it on a good day. If they use their eczema topicals right before the visit, we're going to catch it on a good day. In fact, if you take patients with the worst atopic dermatitis, total body, lichenified, resistant to all outpatient management. Put them in the hospital and put triamcinolone on them in the hospital. In 2 days, they're doing great. They're just clear. So I think perceived inefficacy is largely that they're not using it.
A compliance issue.
Yeah. So I think the key to this is get people to use medicines really well initially. I spend a lot of my effort on getting them to use it really well up front, and then they don't have perceived inefficacy. They see that it works.
And they use it.
Yeah. If they're having inefficacy, can I get them to use it? Gosh, I think this is one of those things where prevention is better than, treatment later.
Mm-hmm. I love the floss example. You have that in your book, and that's one of the most salient points. And I tell all my medical assistants when I'm treating acne or anything chronic, atopic dermatitis, psoriasis, the acne patients come in and they have the retinoid dermatitis. And meanwhile, we saw them 4 months ago, educated about it, told them how to mitigate it, gave them samples of cleanser and moisturizers. And I'm like, look, this person, their face is going to fall off. They're red, they're dry because they just started using it last week because of the dentist analogy. So it's comical when we see that. And I even joke with my patients and say, yeah, you just started this a couple of days ago. Again, didn't you? Yes. So we have a good time.
I had an interview once with a neurologist who was interviewing me for a chair job that they didn't offer me. She's a specialist in Parkinson's disease. And I explained this phenomenon to her. She's like, oh my God, that explains. Every time I'm in clinic, the spouses are always saying to me, you always catch it on a good day. He can't, when he's at home, he can't move. When you examine him, he moves fine. You don't get to see what he's really like. And the neurologist thought it was the stress of the visit that was changing things, but no. This is why we use hemoglobin A1Cs to measure people.
Definitely.
Sugar control. You can't rely on their sugar on the day of the visit because it's going to be fine then.
Oh, yeah. They try to work the system. So I want you, Dr. Feldman, I've read your book, so I want you to talk about your framework for adherence and kind of nudging the patient in the right direction. So your framework, you have a couple different layers. You have the foundation, so building that clinician-patient rapport right from the get-go. Then we talk about reducing the burden of treatment by making things more simplistic and with practical education, and then using behavioral techniques and environmental nudges to make medication use effortless. So starting with the foundation, right? How do you build rapport right from the gate?
Yeah, the foundation is critical. I like to think of those tier 2 things as all the things they taught us in medical school that don't work. Making sure the cost, the written instructions, the motivational interviewing, the side effects, forgetfulness, reminder system, all that's the tier 2 stuff. And that doesn't work without the foundation. And the foundation is making sure patients trust us, because if they're not going to trust the drug company, they're not going to trust the insurer. If they're going to take the medicines, because they're putting their trust in us.
Right.
And then the other key thing about the foundation is accountability. The accountability piece is so central. If you create that accountability foundation, I'm not even sure you have to worry about tiers 2 and 3. If you don't, you do all the tier 2 and 3 stuff you want, and it won't work. And I like to prove this with the issue of the piano teacher. You've heard about the parable of the piano teacher?
Yes, but tell it for our listeners.
Okay, great. So, my kids took piano lessons. The piano teacher gave them the sheet music, told them we're going to have a lesson once a week. Practice every day, see at the recital in 3 months. And the recital sounds pretty good because kids are practicing some every week. What would happen if a new piano teacher said, well, that's inefficient. They sound good because they practice, not because of the weekly lessons. So I will give them the sheet music, tell them to practice every day, see it in 3 months, won't have the weekly lessons. Well, that piano recital is going to sound execrable because nobody's going to start practicing until 3 days before the recital. We don't hold our patients accountable. We tell them, here, do this, see in 3 months. And it's crazy talk, because nobody in any other field of human endeavor tells people, here, do this every day. I'll see you in 3 to 6 months. I get to work with the most motivated, most effective people on the planet. It's not my patients who have itchy diseases. No, it's medical students at the top of their medical school class who are desperate for a dermatology residency. They come to work with me, for the summer, and they're desperate to publish. If I were to give them a project and say, okay, work on this every day, I'll meet with you again at the end of the summer, even they would fail, right? I have to have weekly lab meetings with them to make them work.
Mm-hmm.
That sense of accountability, I think, is what drives people to use their medicine. So if I were to start a patient on a new medicine, I will invariably tell them, I want you to call me in either for something really tough in 3 days, for normal things, maybe 5 days, and let me know how this is working for you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you have an EMR, you could tell them, send me a message in the EMR, report how this is doing. If they think they're going to be in contact with you,
They'll put the medication on.
they'll fill it and they'll use
That's
it.
the first battle.
Yeah. If they think they're going to be in contact with you. Now, being in contact with you does not matter. Okay. In theory, a doctor could give out their physician assistant's cell phone number,
Mm-hmm.
or a random 10-digit number. In theory, a random 10-digit number should make people fill the prescription and use it. Really, I wouldn't do that personally, but I give out my cell phone number because I'm a crazy academic. But, if the dentist calls you on the day of your appointment and says, I have to cancel, sorry, you still would have flossed the 3 days before that visit. And so it's not the visit that drives the behavior. It's the anticipation that you're going to be accountable. And if a patient really loves their doctor,
Mm-hmm. They don't want to let them down.
They don't want to let them down. It's not a negative thing. It's kind of a positive thing in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably I don't want to be embarrassed component, but there's also I want my doctor to respect me and like me, and I'm going to do what they say. So
Mm-hmm.
I can't let them down and not fill this and use it if I'm going to be talking to them soon.
That's a big piece of the puzzle, honestly.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of my patients will put their stuff on because I expect them to be accountable. And I'll ask them, go through your routine, and they know, I'm not going to spoon feed them the routine. Some of them bring their products in. I'm putting this, I'm putting that. So I know what they're doing and, whether the bottles are full or empty or how many refills. So there's lots of different tricks there. Talk to me a little bit about some behavioral nudges because, if we think about snacking, right? If we have a bowl of fruit on the counter, we've got chips in the pantry, even though we may want the chips on a subconscious level, we're likely to go and get the fruit because it's out there and it's visible. So how do you use something like that in your daily practice? For example, like tinea pedis, right? They're going to put their socks on, maybe put the tube of medication in the sock drawer. What other tips do you have that can kind of integrate that?
Yeah, I think that notion of putting it in the sock drawer is genius. I did Taekwondo with my son for many years and caught tinea pedis. And all I needed to do to cure it was put a cream on. Never remembered to do it. I'd wake up in the morning and I'd put my shoes and socks on. Then I would see the cream. I'd be like, I'll do it tomorrow. And tomorrow would come and the same thing would happen. Because I'm Pavlov's dog. If I'm in the habit of putting my shoes and socks on, that's what I do.
Yep.
And then
It's
I
that
discovered
barrier.
I just moved the cream to be on top of the socks. So I couldn't get to the socks without seeing the cream first. Dramatically and more effective. I think little things like packaging, birth control pills in the 1960s didn't work very well. I mean, they worked pretty well, but not like they do today. The chemistry's not changed. What changed is how they package it. You saw what pill you're supposed to take what day.
Yep.
If I left my statin in its bottle instead of putting it in a 7-day pill container, I would forget to take my statin many times. And on the days that I remembered to do it, I'd probably forget that I had done it and take it a second time, possibly a third time, maybe even a fourth time at my age. But having it in that 7-day pill container, it dramatically
Keeps you accountable.
Yeah, and the packaging of pills is designed to fail. It comes in this beige bottle that blends into the natural environment. If I was designing,
Where's Waldo?
Yeah, if I wanted, to get young girls to put their triamcinolone on, it would come in a pink jar. The jar would play, when you took the cap off the jar, it would play the music from Frozen. And the cream in the jar would have glitter in it.
There are many skincare brands employing these tactics, Dr. Feldman, from a marketing standpoint.
Right?
But yes, the pharmaceutical companies have not yet caught on board to some of these things.
I believe one reason they don't put glitter in these products is because there were compounding pharmacies, I believe, putting glitter in, and the FDA told them you cannot do that because people will overuse the product. And so they recognize what a powerful tool this is. And I'm like, well, don't take the tool away from us. Just have them, give some moisturizer with glitter in it too. So they use the steroid glitter when they need it, and they use the moisturizer glitter when they don't, and then they won't overuse the steroid.
There you go. That's pretty cool. I want you, Dr. Feldman, to talk. We're going to kind of close things out here. Talk about the curse of knowledge, which I think is such a brilliant concept. We understand the pathology, we understand the mechanisms of action of these drugs, the pharmacokinetics, and we forget that our patients sitting before us, they don't know all of this stuff. So we're telling them, put this topical on, put that topical on. And to us, it makes perfect sense, right? You have your script, you have got your 6 or 8 things on it, and the patient is completely overwhelmed and overloaded. So, how do you bridge the gap?
Yeah, it's such a fascinating, but people don't remember anything. After I completed my training at Duke, I had a friend, Ira, who completed his training I trained at Chapel Hill. He trained at Duke. And he went back up to New York when he finished training. I was going to go visit him. He was telling me, Steve, when you land in LaGuardia, you're going to go down the escalator. At the bottom of the escalator is going to be these Russian limo drivers. Don't take them. Go outside to the taxis. The taxis are well regulated. They're safe. They're low cost. The limo driver is probably going to overcharge you at best, take you to an alley and rob you at worst. So, okay. So a month later, I arrive in LaGuardia Airport. I'm going down the escalator, and there's the Russian limo driver. And I'm like, Iris said something about the Russian limo driver. What did he say? I think he said don't take them, but
I'm not sure.
Why would he have mentioned it? And so I ended up taking the Russian limo driver. I've had a patient mom had brought her child to see me because this young child had failed treatment from a previous dermatologist for eczema, and the kid's skin was dry as could be. And I'm like, what are you bathing this child with? She said, Ivory soap. And I said, oh, Ivory, is that what the previous dermatologist recommended? She said, yes, the previous dermatologist recommended Dove or Ivory. I'm pretty sure the previous dermatologist must have said Dove, not
Don't
Ivory.
Use. Exactly.
But that's a really good example of the curse of knowledge. To us, Dove, not Ivory makes perfect sense. But to mom, who's in our office, it's not her natural environment. Her brain's not working normally. She's not going to remember anything we tell her. She can confuse even the simplest instructions. So if you want patients to remember something, you can give it to them in writing.
Exactly. I have a handout for my eczema patients, and I have my no list, and I tell them, do not use Ivory, do not use Irish Springs, and make it emphatic. And then I send them home with a goodie bag of what they should use. So hopefully they have a couple things to try, but that's a really funny example. So Dr. Feldman, if you could wave that magic wand of yours, what's one last pearl that you want to leave our listeners with?
Yeah, I think that most critical thing is accountability. I think that's just such an underappreciated phenomenon. And if you want patients to use their medicines, arrange some kind of contact with them. If you're a computer programmer, create a deep fake of yourself with your face and your voice and send it out weekly to the patient and let the patient think they're talking to you, each week to drive them to use their medicine better.
Maybe just having like a medical assistant call and say, hey, how are you doing? Something that we could integrate. It's so hard to do some of these things with the patient load that we have, but I do think it's really important that initial foundation, as you said, if you don't have that, you don't have trust, there's not buy-in to comply with what you're recommending to patients, then the rest really doesn't work. And I think that's really a vivid point to emphasize.
Yeah. So let me just say, it's so important. It's great to have the staff call them. What's more important is that they are expecting the call.
This is
true. If they're expecting the call and the call doesn't come, they still use. This was actually tested by people trying to figure out what will get people to go vote. They tried all kinds of reminders. People didn't vote. They told people, we're going to call you after the election to find out how you voted. Well, then they went and voted.
Isn't that wild? Just the reframe. It's so important. That's a great example. Dr. Feldman, it's always such a pleasure to interact with you. I learn something new every time. I have your books, but I knew I wouldn't walk away without many more pearls today. So it's always such a good time. Thank you so much for your expertise and sharing a little bit of your magic with us today. What an absolute pleasure to have you.
Thanks for sharing me with your guests.
Absolutely. And to our listeners, thank you again for tuning in to yet another episode of the Spot Check podcast. Be sure to subscribe, download the episode, and share it with a colleague. And before you go, remember this. The care you give your patients tomorrow starts with the confidence that you build today. So take these clinical pearls, trust your gut, and go make it happen. And I'm cheering you on every step of the way. Grazie mille, ragazzi. Alla prossima.
Looking for more conversations like this one? Don't stop here. Explore the full lineup of podcasts from Derm Squared, where dermatology industry leaders, innovators, and experts share insights you won't hear anywhere else. Visit dermsquared.com/podcasts.